Welcome to Black Beauty in my cupboard. So we're going to be listening to chapter 1 at the moment, and whilst we're doing that I want to teach you how to make some cord making. So these are some that I've done before the programme, as they used to say. Sometimes it's difficult to know how to choose your colours. These are all bits of sort of wool that I've been knitting jumpers, things with. Some of them are slightly different. So this one, for instance, was made with embroidery silks. And sometimes it's a nice idea to have a theme for your colours. So this is the red and white for Southampton Football Club. Christmas. Licorice all sorts. The sea. Mint ice cream. The hearth, the ash in the hearth. Flames in the hearth. Hard-boiled eggs. Hornets. So there are lots of things you can choose. Oh, the Jubilee. I must stop there. Choosing the colours is quite a fun thing to do, and this is what we're looking for. There's evidence, licorice all sorts, of people doing this going right the way back to what do you call them? Viking times. Probably a lot earlier. But we definitely know they've done that. So this is what our end result's going to be. What would you use it for? Bookmarks, tying things together, tying to your zip, if you make a short one, friendship bracelets, necklaces, doing the drawstrings for little bags, booties, ribbons for booties, tying up prezzies. It's surprising how many things you can do with these. So how do we make them? Firstly, you'll need some wool, and then you'll need something to weave it together with. Now this was based on one found at the Mary Rose. It's made out of wood. I'm very fond of this one because it's got happy memories attached to it. The problem with it is if you've got very thin wool, it won't get pinched into these. It won't be held tight in these gaps. And if you've got very thick wool, it's quite difficult to sort of shove it in there. But so what you have is you've got your 7 bits of wool, 8 holes, 7 bits of wool, and it gets pooed out the bottom there, and it looks a bit like a jellyfish, doesn't it? And then you weave it round. Probably my favourite to actually use is this one. It's made out of leather, and if your mum's chucking out an old handbag or something, this is ideal because it gently holds any thickness of yarn, and it will just stay nice, and it feels nice to work with. You can take a coffee top and melt bits in the side. This one I've got more than 8 holes, but you have to work because you get all these little bits that sort of like snag and jag the wool. So once you've done that, you have to sort of use some sandpaper or something just to smooth it right down. I haven't had a lot of success with these as yet, some, but I'm not happy with it. One of the best things you can use is cardboard. So there we are. There's the cord coming out of the bottom. Here's the different colours. There's the gap. It holds it nicely, and when it gets worn out, you just cut another one. Any old sort of cornflakes packet will do. So let's see how to do that. Take a piece of cardboard, draw a circle round a mug or something else. Let's get a nice strong colour for you. Oh, I was going to do it with my... No, it will have to be a pencil. No, here we are. Biro. So holding it very still down. I got it. And then when you finish, just check that it looks like a circle. Yeah, that'll do. Put a little mark for the centre. I think you can always redo it. And then a line, not too long. You can always cut it longer. As an old carpenter once told me, measure twice, cut once, same with this, and then so you do one at 12 o'clock, one at 6, one at 3 o'clock, one at 9 o'clock, and now you do one halfway between each one. And those positions you'll use a lot in non-verbal reasoning. Once you've done that, cut out your circle. There we go, round and round. I love cutting things. I was an absolute demon with scissors as a kid. And then cut your slots. If they're not long enough, you can always cut them longer. If they're too long, you've got to start again. You could try sticking it with sellotape, but it won't work because then the sellotape sticks to the wool, and it's only bits of cardboard, so there's no point in getting too precious about it. And then using your pen, check that the centre is where you think it's centre. I think I'm going to move it slightly over a bit, and then just poke it through. Don't be tempted to cut off these flappy bits around its body. Those will be very handy. They will hold your cord in place. Now, next thing you need to do is select 7 bits of wool. And you take your 7 bits of wool and you put them together so they're like a little bouquet of flowers. Hold it quite close up to the top. Now they will inevitably be all different lengths. Aim to have them roughly the same length. You don't want to have one 3 miles long and another 6 inches long, but have them roughly the same length. But they will inevitably not be the same. And your cord will then be dictated its length by the length of the shortest bit of wool. In case you're wondering the difference between wool and yarn, wool, technically speaking, comes off a sheep, perhaps an alpaca or something, whereas yarn could be made of anything but looks like this. So you take it, got your nice little bouquet, twist it, see if you like the colours. Oh, they do look nice, don't they? Much to my surprise, because I'd chosen them just so it was easiest to show you what to do. So twist them nice and tight now. Got it? Fold it over and then poke it through the hole from the smooth side to the bumpy side. So from the smooth side to the bumpy side. And pull it out and then tie a knot. So what you do is you take your things that looks like a hill, twist it and then poke the tail through the hole. Now, make sure all the bits go through, hold them and then just pull you might need to push that down with your fingers so it's towards the end so that you can get a shorter tassel, otherwise you'll end up with a long tassel, and there's nothing wrong with a long tassel. Now pull that back slightly. And now we're going to spread them out. 1 piece of wool per slot. This is where we get to find out whether you're colourblind or not. These will inevitably get tangled every now and again, so just either sort of comb them through gently or pick 1 piece of wool up and just pull one out at a time. Notice there's 1 gap. You need 1 gap because that's where it's going to go. So 7 bits and 1 gap. Holding the gap up at 12 o'clock, you have to go over 2. Now take your time. This is going to take a little while to get to learn. There's no rush. I'll be doing it throughout chapter 1 and quite possibly chapter 2, so you've got plenty of time to learn, so don't panic. That's the thing that's been really noticeable about the difference between those that pass and those that don't, is their patience when following instructions. The ones that go on to pass tend to spend longer looking, and then they get on with it, and then they have a go, and then they look again at what I'm doing. The ones that are less likely to get through tend to panic at an early stage. So if you recognise that in yourself, just stop panicking. Think, no, I can take my time. I don't have to worry about this. I've got time. So here's our gap at 12 o'clock. We're going to go over 2. Now you can work clockwise or anti-clockwise. We're going to work clockwise. It doesn't matter which way you do it, but you have to be consistent. You can't keep changing your mind. Otherwise you'll make some cord and then undo it, make it and then undo it. So once again, there's our gap at 12 o'clock. Those are the 2 we're going to jump over. So this is the one we take. So it goes over 2, up, over 2, and then can you see, if you do it from the side like that, it will just slide into the gap. Miss 1. Now your gap is down at 6 o'clock. It's a different gap, but there's the gap. So you take this one over 2, 1, 2, slide it in. 12 o'clock, up, over 2, turn it round slightly, miss 1, down, over 2, miss 1, up, over 2, miss 1, down, over 2, miss 1, up, over 2, 1, 2, miss 1, down, over 2, miss 1, up, over 2, miss 1, down, over 2. Now can you see it's beginning to get tangled here? That's perfectly normal. So just take one thread and pull it out, and then the rest will all gradually collapse. But now what do we do? Move it round so your gap is at 12 o'clock, and then miss 2, so you go up, over 2, miss 1, down, over 2. Right, I'll stop talking there so we can listen to the story. Are we ready?
Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. Part 1. Chapter 1. My Early Home. The first place that I can well remember was a large, pleasant meadow with a pond of clear water in it. Some shady trees leaned over it, and rushes and water lilies grew at the deep end. Over the hedge, on one side, we looked into a ploughed field, and on the other, we looked over a gate at our master's house, which stood by the roadside. At the top of the meadow was a plantation of fir trees, and at the bottom, a running brook overhung by a steep bank. Whilst I was young, I lived upon my mother's milk, as I could not eat grass. In the daytime, I ran by her side, and at night I lay down close by her. When it was hot, we used to stand by the pond in the shade of the trees, and when it was cold, we had a nice warm shed near the plantation. As soon as I was old enough to eat grass, my mother used to go out to work in the daytime and came back in the evening. There were 6 young colts in the meadow besides me. They were older than I was. Some were nearly as large as grown-up horses. I used to run with them and had great fun. We used to gallop all together round and round the field as hard as we could go. Sometimes we had rather rough play, for they would frequently bite and kick as well as gallop. One day, when there was a good deal of kicking, my mother whinnied to me to come to her, and then she said, "I wish you to pay attention to what I am going to say to you. The colts who live here are very good colts, but they are cart-horse colts, and, of course, they have not learned manners. You have been well-bred and well-born. Your father has a great name in these parts, and your grandfather won the cup 2 years at the Newmarket races. Your grandmother had the sweetest temper of any horse I ever knew, and I think you have never seen me kick or bite. I hope you will grow up gentle and good, and never learn bad ways. Do your work with a good will, lift your feet up well when you trot, and never bite or kick, even in play. I have never forgotten my mother's advice. I knew she was a wise old horse, and our master thought a great deal of her. Her name was Duchess, but he often called her Pet. Our master was a good, kind man. He gave us good food, good lodging, and kind words. He spoke as kindly to us as he did to his little children. We were all fond of him, and my mother loved him very much. When she saw him at the gate, she would neigh with joy and trot up to him. He would pat and stroke her and say, "Well, old Pet, and how is your little darky?" I was a dull black, so he called me Darky. Then he would give me a piece of bread, which was very good, and sometimes he brought a carrot for my mother. All the horses would come to him, but I think we were his favourites. My mother always took him to the town on a market day in a light gig. There was a ploughboy, Dick, who sometimes came into our field to pluck blackberries from the hedge. When he had eaten all he wanted, he would have what he called fun with the colts, throwing stones and sticks at them to make them gallop. We did not much mind him, for we could gallop off, but sometimes a stone would hit and hurt us. One day he was at this game and did not know that the master was in the next field, but he was there, watching what was going on. Over the hedge he jumped in a snap, and catching Dick by the arm, he gave him such a box on the ear as made him roar with the pain and surprise. As soon as we saw the master, we trotted up nearer to see what went on. "Bad boy," he said. "Bad boy to chase the colts. This is not the first time, nor the second, but it shall be the last. There, take your money and go home. I shall not want you on my farm again." So we never saw Dick any more. Old Daniel, the man who looked after the horses, was just as gentle as our master, so we were well off.